Morning, guys and girls. So, as most of you will be aware, or anyone who follows me on my personal training Facebook page, I am a personal trainer. It's my kind of my passion, my love, my drive. It's what kind of keeps me going every day. As soon as I'm struggling with parts of life, whether it's bills or relationships or whatever it might be, work. My personal training is it gives me that purpose, that sense of purpose, and that reason to be who I am. Um, and so I really wanted to in this last year, 2016, I've experienced a lot more in this year, I think, than I have done in previous years, whether that's because I've become more self-aware of what's happening to me in terms of my life and what I've seen and what I've heard and what I believe and stuff and what I read, and I'm able to dissect that information and understand it to a greater level. And so one thing I really want to start doing is raising more awareness of conditions that people go through. And for myself specifically, I want to talk about my dyspraxia. Dyspraxia is, to be honest with you, extremely frustrating, more so than most people think. And it's the trouble with dyspraxia is that it's not very heard about. It's people will often say, "Oh, so you got similar to dyslexia," and it's a bit like, well, it kind of is, but it kind of isn't. Personally, I think dyspraxia is worse, but that's up to the individual to decide. So, in this video, I'm going to describe how it affects my attention span. Since I've gotten into a lot of issues with previous employments and work and stuff, with other people as well, family, friends, and all that kind of stuff, purely because my attention span is it's literally hard, it's not there, basically. I can be working really, really well for 5-10 minutes, doing some really good work, whatever it might be, whether it's writing an article on training, or whether it's training someone, and my mind will just wander. It will just go somewhere, and I have no idea where it goes. The attention just goes. It's almost like I'm a person in a body, but my brain is just not responding to any stimulus that's placed upon it. I remember in school, and I very, very, very distinctly remember it, if distinctly is the right word. I was in school reading a book, and the teacher was trying to explain it to everyone, asking if everyone's okay, and when they finished reading it, so that she could carry on with the next stage of the lesson, and so on and so forth. And I remember that I was reading the book, and it was funny because I literally looked at the words, and then suddenly the words just appeared to be they were letters and sentences. There was no kind of context, no structure, if you like, to the words and the sentences. So I looked at it and just thought, this makes no sense to me. Now, we're talking, I don't know, somewhere in the year 7 to 9 range, I think. So obviously between the ages of 11 and 13 or 14 or what have you. And obviously at that age, yeah, you might get some people struggle to read, but generally speaking, you can read. It wasn't the fact that I couldn't read, it was the fact that I was reading the words, and I could say the words, I could enunciate them, I could understand them. I literally I couldn't dissect the information. It's like, trying to understand code when you've actually never done a website before and you've got to do one, you can't afford to hire a website designer. It's literally like that. And the trouble is, it wasn't just then, it's also now. And it probably will be for the next 50 years of my life. I'm 26 now, so, by the time we get to 80, I'm going to probably need someone to help me read. But I laugh about it because at the end of the day, I know I've got to live with it, so I've just got to try and deal with it. And that's the best thing you can do. So the trouble with dyspraxia in the terms of attention is that, you could have your attention on one thing and then suddenly that attention goes, and then you find something else to do. And so that makes it worse because you're trying to do two things at once. The trouble there is that it can carry on, it can be a snowball effect. So once you do one thing and you completely just lose your attention and you just disappear from it, you will eventually just go on to something else. And the trouble with that is the same thing can happen again. And so on that second thing, you go, oh, actually, I've started this, but why have I not finished that? Then you get confused because you're stalling, because you're worried that you actually should have finished the first job before you start the second job. That means the second job gets started but doesn't get finished, so you've got two unfinished jobs. Then you think, oh, actually, maybe I should go back to this first job, but I'm not sure. You go back to the first job and complete that, but then that second job's not completed yet. And so then you completely forget about that second job, and then you move on to another job. So you've now literally just finished one job, but you've actually started three jobs in a process of just doing one job. And it's a very common thing for people with dyspraxia, is that you'll know their attention will go and they'll struggle a little bit. And it's very frustrating because if I'm trying to get some really important work done, it can take me a matter of days to get it done. And it's frustrating when you're self-employed as well because, you know, it's a lack of a job completed, and obviously there's a lack of money because you need to get paid for that job. And it also makes you struggle because you hopefully you want to provide a quality service no matter what you're doing. But if your attention span is very little and it doesn't really exist as such, or it's limited, that service can be disrupted, and someone else can find someone else who's better at the business than you are. And so even if you're not running a business, even if you're not self-employed, if you just work, employees can get irritated because you're supposed to finish the job they asked you to do, which is a job they can do very well, and they've hired you for it, and you can't complete that job that efficiently, and that annoys the employer. And the trouble is, most people don't, I wouldn't say they have the time, because everyone has the time to understand something, but most employees don't care if you have dyspraxia or any issues like that. They'll be like, well, why didn't you tell me in the first place so I understand it? And you go, well, because I don't want you to not hire me in the first place because of what I have. And I think that's what a lot of people worry about, and I have worried about myself. I've never told employers that I have dyspraxia for a long time, because I don't want them to look at me and go, yeah, we're not going to hire you because basically you're an idiot, to put it simply. And so I think that can put a lot of pressure. It can put a lot of anxiety through an individual. It can make them worry, and it can halt their confidence. It means that, okay, I can't go for that job because I'm going to be useless at it, because that employer is going to do exactly the same thing as that other employer. The best thing you can do if you have dyspraxia, I think, in terms of this situation, is just improve your people skills. Find a job that you really, 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 really enjoy and you're really good at. For me, people skills. I love being around people. Yeah, sometimes I can be a bit shy, but most of the time, my people skills are my best trait. I still have a lot to work on, like anyone does, but find something you're really good at and go for a job that involves that. Forget about how much money you're getting paid, okay? Because what's the most important thing is your happiness and your well-being and helping this business. The happier your work lifestyle is, the happier your home lifestyle should be, okay? And that is very, very true. I've realised that in the last month or two. I had a hectic couple of months, and I'm glad that it's kind of finally settling down. I'm getting things sorted out. It's been a hell of a ride, but I'm finally getting there. I would say that a lot of it comes down to my dyspraxia. As much as I don't want to make an excuse, I think that you've got to be honest with yourself. I think it is a main reason why I do struggle quite a bit. And also, you might notice that if I'm looking at the camera, I don't look at the lens. I look at the screen of the camera. So if I'm looking at the lens here, I struggle to think of the words I'm about to say unless I look at the screen. It's very weird. I don't quite understand it, but being able to see my face, I can concentrate more. It might be because I'm looking down. I don't know, because obviously if you look to the left and you look to the right, your brain responds in different ways. So if you have a bad attention span with you have dyspraxia, please don't be deterred from it. Don't let it get you down. The best thing you can do is just work on it, explain it to people as best as you can do, and just kind of carry on with it. Okay, be confident about yourself, be confident with your dyspraxia, explain what it is. The more confident you are with it, the more people will appreciate and respect you because of it, the more employers will respect you because of it, and actually the more likely an employer is to recommend you someone else because you're great at that job, and another employer doesn't need to worry as much as the previous employer that you just tried to be hired by. So don't let it tell you. Carry on, stay strong, focus, and just enjoy who you are, and just work at it. Okay. In part 2, I'm going to be discussing communication, and I'm not sure how many parts there are going to be to this video series, if you like, but if this kind of interested you, if it kind of made sense to you, and if you want to use it to explain to someone else about your dyspraxia, or even dyslexia, if you like, I suppose, then please share it, because I think the world needs to know more about dyspraxia. Cheers, guys.